Good morning, Jugjiv.
Morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And good morning to all the participants here. Are we ready to read the first
Yes.
segment of our reading? We start with My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Durrell. So, if Manisha, do you know where we stopped last time? I'm sure you have a bookmark.
Ma'am, there may be few students, those who are new, so if you can give them some background or something.
Right. So, we were reading the chapter called Tortoise Hills, the Tortoise Hills, and also at the same time, we Gerald was describing all those funny, eccentric guests that his brother's friends were, and that is where we had stopped. So he was also describing the antiques of the beetles, the male and the female beetle, and we will take this from there. So you have the highlighted portion, which is where we will begin with. So, and Theodore had spoken to him about the horse and the parade in which he was on a horse leading the parade, and how there was eau de cologne in the eyes, which fell on the eyes of the horse, and the horse was very, very disturbed. And so he had to leave that. Okay. So, yes, is there somebody who wants to say something? Okay. If anyone wants to say something regarding the reading or has any question, they may please raise their hand, and Manisha ma'am will unmute you, and I can answer your question, or even Jugjiv sir is very kind. He keeps answering it in the chat box also. So that is also a possibility. Let's carry on with our reading. He waggled the glass top box gently so that the beetle slid from one end to the other, waving its antennae in surprise. Then he put it carefully back on the shelf among my other specimens. Talking of horses, said Theodore happily, placing his hands on his hips and rocking gently. Did I ever tell you about the time when I led the triumphant entry into Smyrna on a white charger? Well, it was a First World War, you know, and the commander did. I think we have read this portion, ma'am. Manisha, ma'am. We have read this page, and further, I spoke about it just now when there was eau de cologne on the eyes of the horse. So if you can turn the page, let me
Let me
just.
check, ma'am. Let me check.
Yeah, please.
Is this the one?
Uh, no, this is where we just started, but this portion we have read. We are almost towards the end of the chapter. We didn't finish the whole chapter, but
Ma'am, that is what perhaps after you have read, I have marked it because these are the only 2 pages left.
yeah, because this we had read, and
So
just
maybe
let
from
me.
talking of horses, because 2 pages later, the chapter will get over.
Okay.
I
Okay,
think
let
we
me.
go to
I'll
the
take
next
it from
chapter.
here. I'll carry on.
Yes, ma'am.
Jugjiv sir, you said something?
I think the next chapter is Tortoise Hills, right? We started that chapter.
No. We are on Tortoise Hills.
Okay.
We are reading Tortoise Hills, and we are
Okay.
towards the end of that chapter. The next chapter is the world in a wall.
Right. We haven't gone there as yet.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine.
So I'll take it from here. A little behind does not make any difference.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
of the horses, said Theodore happily, placing his hands on his hips and rocking gently. Did I ever tell you about the time when I led the triumphant entry into Smyrna on a white charger? Well, it was in the First World War, you know, and the commander of my battalion was determined that we should march into Smyrna in triumphal column, led, if possible, by a man on a white horse. Unfortunately, they gave me the doubtful privilege of leading the troops. Of course, I had learnt to ride, but I would not consider myself an expert horseman. Well, everything went very well, and the horse behaved with great decorum until we got into the outskirts of the town. It is custom in parts of Greece, as you know, to throw scent, perfume, rose water, or something of the sort over the conquering heroes. As I was riding along at the head of the column, an old woman darted out of a side street and started to hurl eau de cologne about. The horse did not mind that. But most unfortunately, a small quantity of the scent must have splashed into his eye. Well, he was quite used to parades and so forth, and cheering crowds and things, but he was not used to having his eye squirted full of eau de cologne. He became most upset about it and acting more like a circus horse than a charger. I only managed to stay on because my feet had become wedged in the stirrups. The column had to break ranks to try to calm him down. But he was so upset that eventually the commander decided it would be unwise to let him take part in the rest of the triumphal entry. So while the column marched through the main streets with bands playing and people cheering and so forth, I was forced to slink through the back streets on my white horse, both of us, to add insult to injury, by now smelling very strongly of eau de cologne. Mm. I have never really enjoyed horse riding since then. All right. So we did start with the Tortoise Hills. We have to go to this is the end of this chapter. Manisha, ma'am, we have to go to chapter 9, the world in a wall. But there's some pages are missing here. As far as my book is concerned, um,
Maybe, ma'am, like this is what I have.
okay. Just give me a second. Because we read about all those millions of tortoise and everything. So I'll start with the world in the wall. Chapter 9, please. Is this the beginning of the chapter, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Chapter
All
9,
right.
The World in a
The
Wall.
world in a
And
wall.
this is the
Okay.
first page.
The crumbling wall that surrounded the sunken garden alongside the house was a rich hunting ground for me. It was an ancient brick wall that had been plastered over, but now this outer skin was green with moss, bulging and sagging with the damp of many winters. The whole surface was an intricate map of cracks, some several inches wide, others as fine as hairs. Here and there, large pieces had dropped off and revealed the rows of rose pink bricks lying beneath like ribs. There was a whole landscape on this wall if you peered closely enough to see it. The roofs of 100 tiny toadstools, red, yellow, and brown, showed in patches like villages on the damper portions. Mountains of bottle green moss grew in tuffets so symmetrical that they might have been planted and trimmed. Forests of small ferns sprouted from cracks in the shady places, drooping languidly like little green fountains. The top of the wall was a desert land, too dry for anything except a few rust red mosses to live in it, too hot for anything except sunbathing by the dragonflies. At the base of the wall grew a mass of plants, cyclamen, crocus, asphodel, thrusting their leaves among the piles of broken and chipped roof tiles that lay there. This whole strip was guarded by a labyrinth of blackberry hung in season with fruit that was plump and juicy and black as ebony. All right, so I just want to know if anybody knows the meaning of this word, labyrinth. Labyrinth is there any response? Does anybody know the meaning of the word labyrinth? Have you heard of the word maze? M-A-Z-E? Okay, Nabia, what is a maze?
Ma'am, I know the meaning of labyrinth.
Okay, very good. Tell me the meaning of labyrinth.
The meaning of labyrinth is a place with lots of, I think, confusing paths and
Yes, you're right. It's like a maze. It's got confusing paths in it. You can start at a point, but you may not know how to come out of it. Okay, so there may be many passages going crisscross or going in different ways, and it can puzzle you a lot. All right. Thank you for that dictionary meaning. And let's carry on. I just want to tell you there are a whole lot of names over here of different kinds of weeds, right? So these are not very common names, but you have a mass of plants, small plants, generally weeds, cyclamen, crocus, and asphodel, right? And he's talking about this wall which was covered completely with moss. And I think even in the last class we discussed about what moss is, right? That green substance which covers damp walls. And in Hindi, somebody did give me the word last time, kai, we call it, right? Okay, let's carry on. The inhabitants of the wall were a mixed lot, and they were divided into day and night workers, the hunters and the hunted. At night, the hunters were the toads that lived among the brambles, and the geckos, pale, translucent, with bulging eyes, that lived in the cracks higher up the wall. Okay, so toads are like frogs, much bigger, and geckos are like your lizards, your house lizards. Their prey was the population of stupid, absent minded crane flies that zoomed and barged their way among the leaves. Moths of all sizes and shapes, moths striped, tessellated, checked, spotted, and blotched, that fluttered in soft clouds along the withered plaster. The beetles, rotund and neatly clad as businessmen, hurrying with portly efficiency about their night's work. Children, just look at the descriptions. Look at the words used, the metaphors used so beautifully, and the imagery has been built up so beautifully. You can actually close your eyes and picture the whole scenery here again. And there is a math related word. Who's going to guess and tell me which is the math related word in this little, in this long sentence that we read, in this little bit of prose that we just read? Is there anyone who can tell me which is the word here which relates to math? Maybe more than one word. Any guesses? Yeah? Nobody's taking a guess? Size, shape, very good. What else? There's one more word which is more closely related to math. Size and shape have already been mentioned. Tell me another word. Yes, Nabia again.
ma'am, I think it's tessellated.
Tessellated. Have you done tessellation in math?
No,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yamini, tessellated. So if you have not done tessellation in math, yes, some of you would have done, because tessellation, I think, is in part of the class 4-5 syllabus also. So tessellation, if you haven't done, please make a note of the word Tessellation. Yes, geometry part. That's right. And you can ask your math teachers to explain to you what tessellation is. So we are not going to spend time understanding tessellation, but I just wanted you to know the connections over here and look at the way the descriptions of all these little creatures has been done and how they are the prey of the lizards and the toads, of the geckos and the toads, right? When the last glowworm had dragged his frosty emerald lantern to bed over the hills of moss and the sun rose, the wall was taken over by the next set of inhabitants. Here, it was more difficult to differentiate between the prey and the predators, for everything seemed to feed indiscriminately off everything else. Thus, the hunting wasps searched out caterpillars and spiders. The spiders hunted for flies. The dragonflies, big, brittle, and hunting pink, fed off the spiders and the flies. And the swift, lithe, and multicolored wall lizards fed off everything. But the shyest and most self-effacing of the wall community were the most dangerous. You hardly ever saw one unless you looked for it. And yet, there must have been several hundred living in the cracks of the wall. Slide a knife blade carefully under a piece of the loose plaster and lever it gently away from the brick. And there, crouching beneath it, would be a little black scorpion, an inch long, looking as though he were made out of polished chocolate. Okay, that's the color he's describing of the scorpion. They were weird looking things with their flattened oval bodies, their neat, crooked legs, the enormous crab like claws, bulbous and neatly jointed as armor, and the tail like a string of brown beads ending in a sting like a rose thorn. The scorpion would lie there quite quietly as you examined him, only raising his tail in an almost apologetic gesture of warning if you breathed too hard on him. If you kept him in the sun too long, he would simply turn his back on you and walk away, and then slide slowly but firmly under another section of plaster. Okay, children, look at these two words put together quite quietly. Okay, quite and quietly. Look at the difference in the spellings. Quite, Quite, quite large, quite enormous, right? And quietly. Quiet is spelled Quiet, and there's a distinction in the pronunciation. So pay attention to that. Okay. If you kept him in the sun too long, he would simply turn his back on you and walk away, and then slide slowly but firmly under another section of plaster. I grew very fond of these scorpions. I found them to be pleasant, unassuming creatures with, on the whole, the most charming habits, provided you did nothing silly or clumsy, like putting your hand on one. The scorpions treated you with respect, their one desire being to get away and hide as quickly as possible. They must have found me rather a trial, for I was always ripping sections of the plaster away so that I could watch them, or capturing them and making them walk about in jam jars so that I could see the way their feet moved. By means of my sudden and unexpected assaults on the wall, I discovered quite a bit about the scorpions. I found that they would eat blue bottles, though how they caught them was a mystery I never solved. Now, blue bottles are also names of creatures. They're not nothing to do with bottles blue in color. Grasshoppers, moths, and lace-winged flies. Several times I found them eating each other, a habit I found most distressing in a creature otherwise so impeccable. Impeccable means perfect. By crouching under the wall at night with a torch, I managed to catch some brief glimpses of the scorpion's wonderful courtship dances. I saw them standing, claws clasped, their bodies raised to the skies, their tails lovingly entwined. I saw them waltzing slowly in circles among the moss cushions, claw in claw. But my view of these performances was all too short, for almost as I switched on the torch, the partners would stop, pause for a moment, and then seeing that I was not going to extinguish the light, they would turn round and walk firmly away, claw in claw, side by side. They were definitely beasts that believed in keeping themselves to themselves. If I could have kept a colony in captivity, I would probably have been able to see the whole of the courtship. But the family had forbidden scorpions in the house, despite my arguments in favor of them. The one day I found a fat female scorpion in the wall wearing what at first glance appeared to be a pale fawn fur coat. Closer inspection proved that this strange garment was made up of a mass of tiny babies clinging to the mother's back. I was enraptured by this family. And I made up my mind to smuggle them into the house and up to my bedroom so that I might keep them and watch them grow up. So I just want to say over here, I don't know how many of you have actually seen this, but I have had the fortune of seeing a sight like this, a mother scorpion with these tiny little scorpions all over her, clinging on to the mother. And as Gerald describes here, it did look as if it was a fat scorpion with a furry coat, right? But they were, and it was right on, I worked in a school which was way into out of the city and almost in a jungle area, and it was a very hot place. So the scorpions and snakes and other things would come out when it was very hot. So the scorpions would find places which were a little coolish for them to be, and they would go and hide in crevices on the wall or on the locks and things like that. And once we did find one right on top of the door latch. And the moment we switched on the light, and as Gerald says, it got disturbed, and all these tiny little scorpions started moving out, and they looked like slightly bigger than ant-like creatures moving out from there. So they do look beautiful, but as you all know, scorpions can be quite deadly if they sting you, okay? With infinite care, I maneuvered the mother and family into a matchbox and then hurried to the villa. It was rather unfortunate that just as I entered the door, lunch should be served. However, I placed the matchbox carefully on the mantelpiece in the drawing room so that the scorpions should get plenty of air, and made my way to the dining room and joined the family for the meal. Dawdling over my food, feeding Roger surreptitiously under the table, and listening to the family arguing, I completely forgot about my exciting new captures. At last, Larry, having finished, fetched the cigarettes from the drawing room, and lying back in his chair, he put one in his mouth and picked up the matchbox he had brought. Oblivious of my impending doom, I watched him interestedly as, still talking glibly, he opened the matchbox. Now I maintain to this day that the female scorpion meant no harm. She was agitated and a trifle annoyed at being shut up in a matchbox for so long, and so she seized the first opportunity to escape. She hoisted herself out of the box with great rapidity, her babies clinging on desperately, and scuttled onto the back of Larry's hand. There, Not quite certain what to do next, she paused, her sting curved up at the ready. Larry, feeling the movement of her claws, glanced down to see what it was, and from that moment, things got increasingly confused. He uttered a roar of fright that made Lucretia drop a plate and brought Roger out from beneath the table, barking wildly. With a flick of his hand, he, ma'am, please turn the page. With a flick of his hand, he sent the unfortunate scorpion flying down the table. And as she landed midway between Margot and Leslie, scattering babies like confetti, as she thumped on the cloth, thoroughly enraged at this treatment, the creature sped towards Leslie, her sting quivering with emotion. Leslie leapt to his feet, overturning his chair, and flicked out desperately with his napkin, sending the scorpion rolling across the cloth towards Margot, who promptly let out a scream that any railway engine would have been proud to produce. Mother, completely bewildered by this sudden and rapid change from peace to chaos, put her glasses and peered down the table to see what was causing the pandemonium. And at that moment, Margot, in a vain attempt to stop the scorpion's advance, hurled a glass of water at it. The shower missed the animal completely, but successfully drenched Mother, who, not being able to stand cold water, promptly lost her breath and sat gasping at the end of the table, unable even to protest. The scorpion had now gone to ground under Leslie's plate, while her babies swarmed wildly all over the table. Roger, mystified by the panic, but determined to do his share, ran round and round and round the room, barking hysterically. "It's that bloody boy again," bellowed Larry. Look out, they're coming," cried Margot. "All we need is a book," roared Leslie. "Don't panic. Hit them with a book." "What on earth's the matter with you all?" Mother kept imploring, mopping her glasses. "It's that bloody boy. He'll kill the lot of us. Look at the table, knee deep in scorpions. Quick, quick, do something. Look out, look out. Stop screeching and get a book, for God's sake. You're worse than the dog. Shut up, Roger." By the grace of God, I wasn't bitten. "Look out, there's another one. Quick, quick. Oh, shut up and get me a book or something." "But how did the scorpions get on the table, dear?" "That boy. Every matchbox in the house is a death trap. Look out, it's coming towards me. Quick, quick, do something. Hit it with your knife. Your knife. Go on, hit it." Since no one had bothered to explain things to him, Roger was under the mistaken impression that the family were being attacked and that it was his duty to defend them. As Lucretia was the only stranger in the room, he came to the logical conclusion that she must be the responsible party, so he bit her in the ankle. This did not help matters very much. Jugjiv sir, should we stop here or?
Yeah, you can.
11 o'clock is the time for us to change
Right.
the. Yes. So, is there anybody who would want to ask a quick question before we go on to the next segment of the show? So did in this particular episode, I remember clearly having taught it in class 7 or 8 because it used to be part of an English textbook called Gulmohar Readers. And I remember this episode so clearly because I had also taught it. Of course, Having read the book, I knew about it. But this is a portion which I had taught students in the class, because many extracts from Gerald's various books are part of textbooks because of the wonderful way in which he uses the English language. Okay. So is there anybody who wants to say anything? All right, wonderful. So we shall stop here, and Jugjiv sir will take on the next segment of reading. Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank you,
nice
ma'am.
day.
Thank you. You too. So last time, Aradhya, I think, said she wrote a book and she's going to talk about it this time. Is she there? Are we going to do that? Aradhya talked about writing a book last time. Are you there? You want to do this? You have to unmute Aradhya Prajapati. Manisha, she's raised her hand.
Yes, sir. Let me check. Where is she? Yeah, Radhe, you are muted.
Yes, sir.
You've written a book, right? You mentioned last time.
Yes, sir.
So are you ready to talk about it this time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Talk to us about it. What's it about? You want to read a little bit out of it? You know, people may have questions for you. Just start talking about it and we take it from there.
Sir, I have to read or
Introduce the book a little bit to us and maybe you want to read a little bit from it.
okay, sir. Wait for a minute. So 1 minute.
Yeah, no problem. Meanwhile, if anybody has any questions for Aradhya, you can. Okay, meanwhile, anybody has any question, and I've even listening to Brinda. Scorpions, I've always thought of them as very dangerous, right? And just the way Gerald was describing it and the way that described her own experience with scorpions, very different from my impression. Right? What
Sir,
anybody
my
else?
book name is The Colors We Never Named.
Say that again slowly.
My book name is The Colors We Never Named.
The colors we never named.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's nice. Tell us about it.
Okay, sir.
What is it about? Does the title say everything about it?
It is about some friends,
Right?
and there are some friends who are going to a place where they never gone, and it was a mysterious place.
Right.
Then after they reached, they see some colors, mysterious colors in a box, and then they open it, and there is a girl who named Navya always believed emotions were like colors some bright and some dull, and some so complicated that no one ever gave them a name. That morning felt strange, and on Khushi suggested a game. Confession, truth came out slowly.
Right. That's nice. That's nice. And so tell us a little bit more about the process. How big is this book? How
Oh,
how many pages is it? How did you get it published? Just tell us a little bit about it.
okay, sir. Sir, it is about 39 pages,
Right.
and in page number 36, I have write three lines which are some friendship don't break because of differences. Second line is they break because of silence between those differences. And third one is and sometimes healing begins the movement we finally choose to speak.
Just repeat that again, please.
Okay, sir. Sir, in page number 36, I have write three lines.
Yeah.
First line is some friendships don't break because of differences. Second one is they break they break because of silence between those differences. And the third one is and sometimes healing begins the movement we finally choose to speak.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. And tell us about the process. How did you get this published? Where is it available?
So, uh, sir, I when I write it, I think to write something different which people read and understand that colors are not only the thing which make the world beautiful, but it is also to make friendships or uh, uh, choose to speak.
Yeah. Well done, Aradhya, as Manisha ma'am says. Yes. You have a child prodigy here. Manisha says, yes, I think it's very good to be able to, uh, think so deeply and be able to express it. I think it's a great quality to have. So well done, Aradhya. Talat, you also mentioned you got your books. We'll talk about them next time. Okay. So
Thank you, sir.
um, I think that I just wanted to go to the Joy of Learning diaries and just uh, pick up a couple of posts to read. And I want to go back several weeks actually, because I think that one point I wanted to make was that it's not necessary for you to write about what you uh, have read, okay? Something that comes to you, like Aradhya just talked about, she may start with a blog, she may think of something about colors, and she may write a small little blog here before she makes a book out of it. So that's just an example. So Arfa had written this a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or so ago. Arfa, I think you're there. Would you like to read it? Manisha ma'am, just see, I think Arfa's there. You can just unmute her.
Yes, sir.
Arfa, would you
Arfa,
like
can
to
you
read?
raise your hand so that I can locate you? Yeah, here it is.
Good
You are
morning.
unmuted.
What is the biggest dream of a slave? We think it is freedom, but as philosopher Nietzsche pointed out, the biggest dream of a slave is not freedom, but to have a slave for himself. And the day a slave gets his own slave, he forgets that he was once controlled. You see this everywhere. Someone who has been raised under harsh authority will repeat it once they gain authority. Mothers who were once mistreated by their families may mistreat their daughters or daughters-in-law. Workers who once hated exploitation may exploit others when they become managers. When someone's identity is shaped by hierarchy, instead of escaping it, their goal becomes moving up in the hierarchy. Everyone wishes to become a millionaire, own a yacht, or buy a sports car. But no one questions the unjust system of capitalism, which does not reward hard work, but rather the ownership of assets. A cobbler who a cobbler who does not own assets but works every day and gets his hands dirty making minimal profits. But a billionaire who works and owns multiple stocks and properties makes enormous profits. People want to climb the financial ladder but do not criticize the income inequality that capitalism brings. This can also be seen in the surge of misandry. Many women, distraught by the ill effects of patriarchy in the modern world as well as in history, resort to misandry, otherwise known as pseudo feminism. Unlike feminism, which believes in equality between men and women, misandry is the belief that women are superior to men. An ordinary man who climbs up the financial ladder by transitioning from earning income as a laborer to owning profitable assets never blames capitalism. This reflects a common mindset. I don't hate the system as long as I am benefited from it. Great are those who see light through the cracks of the system. Nelson Mandela once said, depths of oppression create heights of character. Humans realize the importance of something only when it is absent. We realize the worth of freedom when we are restrained, the importance of liberty when we are enslaved, and the importance of compassion when we are dehumanized. Enlightened individuals realize that the common enemy is not the elite, but the system that allows them to become elites. The elites will die, but the system may not. Many visionaries choose not to climb the hierarchy, but to end it altogether. A real life example of this is apartheid in South Africa. Nelson Mandela and other freedom fighters never wished to oppress white people in revenge, but instead worked to build a system of equality. So, the answer to the question of what the biggest dream of a slave depends entirely on his or her moral compass. Human thought cannot be confined to a single ideology. It is subjective to every individual. Some may wish to have a slave for themselves, but many would wish for the abolition of slavery for everyone, including future generations. And of course, the latter stands more virtuous. Circumstances do not just make the man, they reveal him to himself. Only in the deepest pits of life, where he has nothing but himself, does a man discover his true nature, his resilience, his morals, and his determination. And in the depths of oppression, a slave reveals his true values, his desire for vengeance, or his desire for liberation and the greater good for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Arfa. It was very nice and lot of lots to think about in there. And I just marvel at the fact that you put all this down together. So thank you for that. And I
Thank you,
also
sir.
wanted to make the point for everybody else that you can write, not necessarily write about what we're reading, but also write about something that you feel about, what you see around, what you want to, bring to everybody's attention. So feel free to do that as well. I'm going to stop sharing here, Manisha, and ask you to share the book. We're going to start a new chapter today, chapter 3. Yes, Natsumi 40, former magazine editor. Right? So
Is this the right page, sir?
yes, absolutely. So we're reading this book called What You're Looking For is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama. It's a contemporary book. 2022, written in Japanese, translated for us. And, we have five different chapters. The setting is the same. It's in a particular suburb of Tokyo, and it's around a community center and a library, and all the protagonists are, visiting that library and getting books and getting some, being able to make some changes in their life based on what they read and what they sort of see around them as a result. So this is Natsumi, 40, former magazine editor. We all come to understand at some point in our lives that there is no Santa Claus. But the reason Santa Claus remains an integral part of Christmas celebrations is not for the sake of small children. It is because grown-ups who were once children themselves continue to hold the truth of Santa Claus in their hearts even after they become adults, and they live in that belief. Okay? So Santa Claus, everybody knows Santa Claus. Anybody knows the history of Santa Claus? How did where did the name come from? Right? Anybody? Santa Claus. Santa Claus real, not real.
Yes, Arfa. Arfa,
So,
you raised your hand.
It's derived from Saint Nicholas.
yes, Saint Nicholas. Okay, Nabia, you want to add to that? You raised your hand. Anybody else wants to speak? You have to raise your hand, and Manisha ma'am will unmute you. Saint Nicholas, yes, but the exact name actually, came in from the U.S. and because Saint Nicholas was called Sinterklaas in Dutch, and that's what sort of eventually ended up in Saint Nicholas became Santa Claus. Yeah. Okay. How many times have I read these words? More than I can count. Sometimes I carry this book about with me like a talisman. Talisman is a good luck charm. A colorful array of sticky notes poking out from its pages, contrasting starkly with the whiteness within. Something else that appeals to me. This morning, I turned the calendar over to December. Christmas is nearly upon us. What shall I give for Taba this year? I wonder. Oh, Santa has such a fun problem to solve. December sunshine warms my skin as I think back over the year. It's been 3 months now since the events of the summer. I gaze out of the window. Above the waxing moon is still faintly visible in the winter blue midday sky. What is the waxing moon? What is waxing moon? Anybody? What is waxing moon? Right? Waxing, waning. What does it mean? Waxing moon.
Waxing is when the visible area of the moon becomes smaller and smaller till it becomes a crescent.
It's the other way. Waning is when it's becoming smaller. Waxing is when it's becoming bigger. Okay. Now tell me, how does this happen? I mean, is the moon actually changing size every day? Would anybody tell me? Moon is changing size every day? Becoming bigger, eating something, becoming bigger, and then losing it all. How does this happen? You must have read about this in your science classes,
It's
physics
because
classes.
of the position of the moon, the shadow of the earth comes in there.
Right, right. It's what you can see, right? Depending on the relative position of the sun, the earth, and the moon. That's how this is happening, right? When I was thinking of this, it suddenly struck me. Why is the sky blue? Can anybody tell me why is the sky blue?
Scattering of light.
Yes, absolutely. The
Shorter
sky.
wavelengths scatter more.
Yes, yes, yes. So the sunlight that's coming, it's hitting the atmosphere, and the gases in the atmosphere are scattering blue more than they scatter the other colors, right? Actually, sunlight, is a mixture of all the colors, right? Just like a rainbow. But blue gets scattered more. Actually, it's blue and violet as well. Yes, Geeta, that's right. That's what it's called, Rayleigh scattering, right? Okay. So this now is like a uh, flashback, right? The first bit that we read is the current, and now she's thinking about the past. August. The summer holidays were over, and the office was back to operating normally. I was working for a publisher called Banyusha in their information resources department. My job was to archive all their digital and print publications. Archive is, you can think of it as filing away. Retrieve data for employees upon request, and seek various permissions when required. I also wrote company profiles for the website and other PR material for external use. PR is public relations. There were six of us in information resources, all men apart from myself, ranging from early to late middle age. They were never very communicative with me, and after 2 years, I still didn't feel at ease there. Okay, so what do you think? Is there a relationship between communication and feeling comfortable? Is there a relationship between communication and feeling comfortable? Yes, Deepa says. So yeah, so many times, uh, you know, friendships fall apart. Only reason being no communication is happening, right? So communication is very, very important uh, in relationships. Before transferring to information resources, I had worked as an editor in charge of producing a general interest magazine called Mila for young women. I had spent 13 years of my working life devoting myself to Mila. Then I became pregnant, which was a surprise but not unexpected. By then, I was 37 and conscious of time passing. So it was welcome news. I thought it would be good to have a baby at that age to minimize any future risks to my health and plan to return to work as soon as possible to minimize the risk to my career. So this is always a challenge for women, right? When they start to work and they have children, how to balance, uh, you know, having a family and the careers, right? So it's a, I mean, it's a challenge you face, and people are able to overcome it. You basically, balance both aspects of it. So this is a challenge that certainly women face. And she is having a baby at 37. I remember, uh, I mean, 37 is something that you can think of now. In 40s, people are having babies, but it wasn't so common earlier. I remember uh, ages ago. Uh, this lady, what's the name? Sherry Blair, yeah, Tony Blair's wife. She had a baby at 45, and this is, I think, in the year 2000 or something. And it was like amazing for us to hear how she had a baby at 45. But now it's, I mean, 40s is common, but yeah, this challenge between career versus starting a family is always a challenge that you have to take in your stride when it comes. I can't deny that in the beginning, I did go slightly overboard in downplaying my pregnancy. I told no one apart from the editor in chief until I was past the 12-week mark because I didn't want to be treated differently. I put up with morning sickness in secret and fought off the overpowering sleepiness brought on by hormonal changes with large quantities of mint chewing gum. So, can anybody name any hormone in the body? Name any hormone. Just give me the name of any hormone. Estrogen, yes. And women have more estrogen normally than males, right? What do male oxytocin? Yes. What do males have? Adrenaline, yes. Testosterone, yes, yes. Okay, Shubham's pretty up with his bio. I can see insulin, yes. Once my belly became too big to hide, and I had to make the announcement, I still desperately tried to make sure that nobody would have a problem working with me because I was pregnant. Right? So, what type of person do you think she would be if she doesn't want people to get to know of her pregnancy and doesn't want to be treated differently? What type of person would she be, Natsuma? What do you think? Right? What do you think? What type of person is she? Any thoughts? What type of person is she? Introverted, possible. Yeah,
Secretive and doesn't like any special attention, doesn't like being treated differently.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's normal. I mean, there's nothing wrong or right about these things. You are what you are, right? So, yeah, she doesn't want to bring attention on herself. I worked right up until my last month and gave birth in January. Then I returned to work 4 months later, despite being entitled to 14 months of maternity leave. What is the maternity leave rule in India? Anybody, any idea? 6 months, 26 weeks. I was determined to get back as soon as possible, even if that meant putting 3 month old Futaba into daycare. I had, I did have reservations, but felt impelled, which means forced, to get back to my desk as soon as I was able. So, what do you think about her decision? Right? What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on it? Leaving a 3 month old baby in daycare versus because of the desire to get back to work. Any thoughts? Anybody? Any thoughts on this? What would you do? Anybody? What would you do? Or, if you're a male, what would you advise your wife to do? Yeah, she is determined, and she really loves her work and that's her life, right? Yeah. So that's the challenge. And, so she's choosing to do this to balance both of these things. On my first day back at work, naturally I went straight to the Mila section. My colleague greeted me warmly, but I was conscious of an underlying note of awkwardness that made me wonder. Underlying is something which is below the surface, and awkwardness is some sort of uneasiness that you sense. Right? When the editor in chief called me in, I discovered why. Mrs. Sakitani, may I have a word? He said, ushering me into a conference room. There I was, abruptly informed of my transfer to information resource. Why? I eventually managed to croak out shakily. Right? Frogs croak, right? You just read about frogs. Because it's too hard to work as an editor with a baby, he replied, as if it was a matter of no great importance. But I was seething with an anger that I couldn't put into words. Why? 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 All through maternity leave, I had read Mila from cover to cover every month, come up with ideas and plans for future features, and studied the reference materials, all on the assumption that I was returning to my position. I'd kept myself prepared and ready to get on top of the work the moment I was back. It had never occurred to me that I might lose my position. Everything I had built over 13 years at Mila, what had it all been for? Had my contribution and impact been of such little consequence that they weren't prepared to wait for me? HR also agree with me that we want to make it easy for you to work 9 to 5. The editor in chief said in a consoling tone. HR is human relations. I'm fine. I can handle work and a baby. I jumped in. My husband and I talked it over. We'll share the work between us, not to mention the various babysitters I've lined up for when I need to do overtime or have meetings at night. The decision's been made. No need to push yourself. He rebuffed me warily. Information resources will be far easier on you. That was probably the first time I knew true despair. Despair is hopelessness. No doubt the company believed their decision was for the best, but I didn't want it to be easy. To me, it was like being told I was no longer useful. I felt as if I had been pushed into a deep black hole. No other women on the staff at Banyusha had children, so there was no precedent. Precedent is earlier example. Had I been too optimistic in thinking that I might be one to set it? Okay, so what do you all think? The company's decision. What do you all think? Right thing for the company, wrong thing for the company. To put it in context, in Japan, they all end up working late hours, right? So her boss is saying that, or the new old boss is saying, now you'll be able to work. You can work 9 to 5 and go and take care of your baby, right? So what do you think of the company's decision? Do you agree with it? You don't agree with it? What is your thought? What should the company have done? Work from home. Yeah, that's a good idea. If it was possible, yes. That would be lovely, no? Yes. What else? What do you think of the company's decision? Agree with the decision. And why do you agree with the decision, Sarthak? Does anybody not agree with the decision? Right. What about how they made the decision? Anybody have any thought on that? How did they make the decision? What do you think? How did they make the decision? What do you have any thought on that? How did they make the decision? Is there any, you think it's the right way to do this? Okay, Akansha agrees that's good to. So the question is, the way they, the way they came to the decision. What do you think about that? How the company, many people are they agree with the decision, okay? Uh, but the way they made the decision, what do you think about that? The way the company made the decision and the way they're telling her. What do you think about that? But Shubham, she just said that she's the first lady over there who's got pregnant, so they don't have any earlier examples, so they couldn't really ask her. But they could have talked to her, no? They could have discussed this matter with her. I mean, she may not have been able to come to the office, but phones existed. I'm sure they could have done a Zoom or a Google Meet or whatever. So, uh, you know, I mean, being having a corporate background, I mean, I would certainly say that the company should have had a dialogue with her before coming to this conclusion, right? And taken her own views and her own interests in mind. I mean, their intent may have been to help her, but just the way they did it uh, hurt. And so it's a huge change, right? For her. So many times we suddenly get hit by something which is like a huge change for us, right? And your first reaction is anger, disbelief, right? And then you have to go through the full cycle of accepting and finding out, uh, how you will manage. And when you many times change feels difficult because you're concerned with the new situation, right? And how you're going to manage. Or in her case, what she's missing out on. So you have to get used to it. So, she's this is just the beginning of her change cycle. 2 years went by. I often thought about looking for a new position with another magazine. From a practical point of view, however, things at home had not fallen into place as I had hoped. Coordinating responsibilities with my husband Shuji was not going smoothly, and I was discovering that where a child was concerned, you never knew what was going to happen. I had far less freedom than I expected, and I found it difficult to make plans. It pains me to admit this, but the editor in chief might have been right. It would have been difficult for me to work in the same way as I had before. In the end, I decided that the best course was to bide my time in information resources until Futaba was bigger. Right? So she's gone through the change cycle now and she's accepted her situation. The hands on the wall clocks showed it was just after 5. Being careful not to make any noise, I slung my bag over my shoulder and stood up from my desk to leave. Everybody else had their heads down and still deep in their work. I knew I was doing nothing wrong, but felt guilty nonetheless leaving at this hour. I had been able to get Fataba into the daycare center nearest our home, as there was a long waiting list. In order to be ready for my planned return to work, I had to settle instead for another place a short walk from the next station down, which meant it was also further from the office. Even when I left at 5, it was tight. If I missed just one train, I could not get another connection in time and would run late. The sight of Futaba waiting alone after all the other children had gone always wrung my heart. It was a fast 7-minute walk to the station. The first 3 minutes of that I spent feeling guilty about my colleagues still at work. The last four about Futaba waiting for me. I'm sorry, I kept replaying in my mind as I passed through the ticket gate. Shuji would no doubt be late again tonight. I stood in the train gazing blankly out of the scenery rushing by. I could never get used to leaving work while it was still daylight. Shuji works for an events company, and these days he seems to have to go on a lot more business trips and work overtime. On the train, I thought back to how yesterday he had told me that he was going away on a business trip over the weekend. Maybe it really was a last minute arrangement, but I still couldn't help wishing I had known earlier. There were so many small jobs that demand my attention every day. Daycare, for instance, does not simply involve taking Fataba there and picking her up. Every evening, I have to check her diary for notes from the staff, get her things ready for the next day, and prepare for the various events held throughout the year. At the weekend, I do the jobs that I don't have time for during the week, like airing futons, cleaning the bathroom, and replenishing the contents of the fridge. Futons are mattresses, Japanese mattresses. But it's not as if I absolutely have to do these. When Shuji isn't home, it doesn't matter if the bathroom is a bit grungy, grungy is dirty, and I can make do with anything for meals. What I find most trying is looking forward to sharing the housework and childcare at the weekend, but ending up having to do it all myself. Shuji is more of a doting parent than I am. Doting is showing excess love. He's never objected to changing diapers, and when Prataba started on solid, he took it upon himself to search for recipes online and make them himself. Mostly, however, it shows in the way he looks at her with such love and tenderness. When I'm finding things hard, just him being there makes me feel so much better. I feel trapped being alone with a toddler who can't take who I can't take my eyes off for a second. A toddler is a child who's basically walking a little unsteadily on his or her feet. Of course, I love Futaba. That goes without saying. But that emotion and the suffocating feeling that comes as a result of being closeted alone with a toddler are two completely different issues. Right? So, suffocating feeling. Somebody is asking me the meaning of gasping for breath. Suffocating is when you're feeling short of breath, right? And closeted means shut or secluded, right? So in Japan, the tenderness means gentleness, sensitivity. Uh, in Japan, the size of the houses are very, very small, right? So futon is actually a foldable mattress. So you you basically use the mattress and put it away somewhere so that the same space can use for something else in the day. And because the houses are small, that's why she feels suffocated inside the house. After seeing Chuji off early the next morning, I was about to go back to bed when Futaba woke up. I didn't know why she always has to wake up early at weekends. We ate breakfast and then she proceeded to pull every single toy out of her toy box to play with. I seized the opportunity to hang out the washing. But Pataba's sheets took up most of the space on the clothes drying pole on the balcony. So I have to cram all the hangers close together to put everything in, to fit everything in. The daycare center has very specific requirements about the futon cover. It must be the type with a zipper, and every Friday afternoon when I collect Futaba, I remove the cover from a futon and return it washed on Monday morning. It's a lot of effort at the start of the week, but when I mentioned this to Shuji, he merely said, "Oh, is that so?" Recalling the conversation filled me with annoyance all over again. Right? This is a very common thing right? We keep repeating what's made us angry, what's annoyed us in our mind, and stay angry. Right? The trick is not to repeat it. Right? I returned to the living room to find Futaba glued to the television watching an anime with her toys spread all over the floor. What is an anime? Anybody, what is an anime? I'm sure many of you have seen it. What is an anime? What is an anime? Japanese animation, for instance. Yes, that's what it is. Japanese animation. Fuchan, if you're finished with your toys, let's put them away. Right? So, in Japan, everybody is called San. So if you go to Japan, they'll call you Shubham San, Nabya San, Arfa San, Manisha San. Male or female doesn't matter, right? And for children or somebody you love dearly, you say Chan, the food Chan. If you're finished with your toys, let's put them away. No, I will throw them away if you leave them out. No, no throw away. Well, tidy up then. Tidy them up. No, she's going through a defiant phase. Right? Defiant is not listening. Right? All the all the books say that this is typical of the terrible twos. It's a developmental stage, and the best response is to be patient and not scold. Suppressing my own childish irritation, I picked my way through the scattered toys to the kitchen. Futaba's sippy cup was still in the sink where I'd left it last night. It has a straw that pops out when you open the lid and is such a nuisance to clean. I disassembled it and put the rubber rings in the bleach to soak off stains and disinfect them. Yet another of my weekend chores, one of the many small fiddly tasks that eat up more time than one would expect. That is why I never have time to unwind at the weekend. Patience. If only I could buy it. I'd place a bulk order. I sighed. Maybe I wasn't cut out for having children. I was expecting to cope better than this. The thought of 2 whole days alone with Futaba was daunting. Daunting means scary. Maybe we could go to the park. I wouldn't mind if we were lucky enough to have it to ourselves, but then there are gaggles of other mothers around. Gaggles are noisy group. It's normally spoken of in reference to geese. I get so shy and self-conscious that more often than not, Futaba and I end up simply wandering about. Right? So you did point out that she was a little introvert based on how she felt beginning of when we started this chapter. So it's coming out more, right? Shy and self-conscious. On second thoughts, the park might not be the best plan after all. Where else could we go that would allow us to pass the time pleasantly without raising my stress level? Which is the stress hormone? Which hormone is released when stress goes up?
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline is there to deal with the stress. It comes later. Before that is
Cortisol.
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 Adrenaline is, it peps you up to do what you have to do. Excursions to the aquarium and zoo are major undertakings, while going to the city library involves catching a bus which has reduced services at weekends. I remembered the daycare director once saying that the library in Hattori Community House, a small community center next to the local elementary school, has an area where little kids can play. I hadn't put I hadn't paid much attention at the time, as I'd been on the point of leaving, but a quick search on my smartphone revealed that this community house was quite an impressive facility and did indeed have an area called Kids Space. It has Western and Japanese style meeting rooms and also runs courses for adults apparently. The school is where Futaba will eventually go, and since it is only 10 minutes walk from home, I decided it would be a nice stroll along with an opportunity to familiarize myself with the area, albeit somewhat prematurely. Pooh-chan, shall we go out? Futaba jumped to her feet from a position in front of the television. Thank goodness she didn't say no. Okay, Manisha ma'am, do you want to put a bookmark here? I've tried to break up this chapter, and I may be reading a little fast for some of you, but I just want to make sure that we finish this chapter in 5 sessions. So I'm just trying to go based on that. So any thoughts? It takes a while for these stories to build up, right? Like we've seen in the earlier stories as well. It takes a little while, so it's just building up story. So, any thoughts on anybody? I mean, especially the girls. Do you plan to work? You all plan to work? You don't plan to have a career? What are you thinking? Right? Couple of yeses so far. Meaning of daycare, somebody's asking. Daycare is a place where children can be left so somebody takes care of them, right? Like a creche. Futon is a foldable mattress. Anime is a type of cartoon. Yes, from Japan. Meaning of albeit. Albeit is uh, albeit. It's like how I'm able to get the meaning in my head right now, but uh, when you're reading it in a sentence, the context will help you understand it. So, Nabia, you're writing a book. You want advice from how to publish it. Well, I mean, you have better people than me to do that, right? Aradhya can help you, and Talat can help you, right? Why don't you connect with them offline? Are you all in the same school? Are you in different schools? Nabia, you are in Vidya, right? So this is the power of getting together, right? I think uh,
Yes, sir. I'm
Talat,
with yes.
yeah, Talat I know is in Sunbeam Balya. Uh, Aradhya, which school is Aradhya in? I forget.
Sir, Aradhya in Vidya School, Gurugram.
Prajapati, so then very good, easy for you. Talk to her, talk to her.
Sure.
Right. So anybody, any other questions, any other thoughts? Okay, Manisha ma'am, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Namaskar ma'am. Yes, very much
नमस्कार
so.
सर, बहुत बहुत नमस्कार और सुमध्यान सभी को. Good afternoon. It's almost afternoon, not actually noon. So I just want to know one thing before I start the book reading session. How do you find that 3 books are good, or the previous 2 books, what we were doing was better? Or you want all the 3 books to be together? See, one reason of 3 book reading session is the content is not lost and you are very much at par with the reading sessions, because many a times we tend to forget the stories what we are reading. So this is one reason which we thought that 3 book reading will be, and we have reduced the time also so that you'll be able to concentrate better. So any ideas, any feedback, any comment you would like to give on this? You can write in the chat box if you don't.
Akansha make things 3 is better. I think 2 is better. But,
Akansha says 3 books are better.
yeah,
And
Akansha says 3 is better.
ma'am, what is the meaning of tenderness? Something.
I've answered these. I've answered.
Okay. It was an amazing experience. No, the 3rd book is still going to be read. We haven't finished.
हाँ हिंदी की किताब है तीसरी वाली. I
हाँ
just
जी.
think that हिंदी भी होनी चाहिए हर संडे को.
So what do you
Praveen
think?
also
हिंदी
said,
होनी चाहिए, नहीं होनी चाहिए, और
नहीं
इंग्लिश उसमें?
हिंदी तो अनिवार्य है. Anyway, 3 books are good, Praveen says. So ठीक है, we'll take it as it comes. No issue. Whatever.
ओके, ठीक है. चैप्टर का नाम है सबसे खूबसूरत, और जैसे कि सबको पता है, हम रस्किन बॉन्ड की बुक पढ़ रहे हैं एंड ये बहुत छोटे छोटे चैप्टर्स हैं जो कि एक बार में ही खत्म हो जाते हैं. एंड 2-3 चैप्टर्स है, कहानियां हैं जो कि एक से ज्यादा बार लग सकती है, बट ज्यादातर मैं वही कोशिश करती हूँ कि एक बार में ही खत्म हो जाए, जैसे कि रिकैप की उतनी जरूरत नहीं पड़े, और खूबसूरत कहानियां रस्किन बॉन्ड की जो कि नेचर के आसपास है वो और ज्यादा खूबसूरत आप लोगों को लगे. कैन एनीवन लेट मी नो कि खूबसूरत का डेफिनेशन क्या है? आपको क्या लगता है कि खूबसूरत का मतलब क्या है? सबसे खूबसूरत. सो खूबसूरत की कोई परिभाषा है, या इंग्लिश में जैसे ब्यूटीफुल बोलते हैं, तो खूबसूरत आपकी नजर में क्या है? ओके. Let me see what you all have written in the chat box. Beautiful means something that looks or feels very nice, attractive, gorgeous, so fabs. Okay. Anything more attractive? Very good. Yes, Vaishnavi, you want to speak? I'll allow you to talk. Yes, Vaishnavi, you're allowed to talk.
Ma'am, anything that makes the world a better place and allows everything to be beautiful is beautiful.
100%. Anyone else? खूबसूरत खूबसूरती की अपनी परिभाषा होती है। अगर एक माँ की नजर से देखा जाए तो एक छोटा सा पतला दुबला बच्चा जो इंडियन स्किन टोन जो व्हीटिश है उसको खूबसूरत बहुत से लोग नहीं मानते, डार्क कॉम्प्लेक्शन को अच्छा नहीं मानते, एंड जो बहुत ज्यादा फेयर है उसको ही खूबसूरत मानते हैं। दैट इज जनरली पीपल थिंक। बट एक माँ की नजर में अगर उसका बच्चा डार्क है, टैंट है, वो उसे तो भी उन्हें प्यारा लगता है। तो माँ की नजर की खूबसूरती और दुनिया की खूबसूरती में बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंस है। एक छोटा बच्चा जो दूसरों को लगता है कि हाँ ये इतना प्यारा नहीं है, बट माँ के लिए वो हमेशा ही बहुत ही ज्यादा प्यारा और अजीज होता है। आई थिंक यू ऑल विल अग्री विथ मी। तो खूबसूरती हम सबकी नजरों में है, और न कि जो दूसरे कह रहे हैं खूबसूरत है जरूरी नहीं हमें भी वही खूबसूरत लगे। एक छोटा सा पत्थर गंदा काला कैसा भी हो सकता है, बट जैसे ही कोई उसे तराशता है वो एक खूबसूरत मूर्ति में बदल जाता है। वही पत्थर जो लोग एक दूसरे के ऊपर फेंकते हैं या खेलने के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं, उसको तराशने के बाद वो खूबसूरत बन जाता है। तो अगेन खूबसूरती के बहुत पैमाने हैं। खूबसूरत हर एक की नजर में अलग अलग तरीके से आता है। चलिए हम कहानी पढ़ते हैं और देखते हैं खूबसूरत, सबसे खूबसूरत का इस कहानी से क्या मतलब है। कोई बता पाएगा ये कहानी किसके ऊपर में है और खूबसूरती इस कहानी में क्या है? एनी गेसेस? कोई गेस करना चाहेगा? चैट बॉक्स। ब्यूटी लाइज इन द आईज ऑफ, ओके, नो मैम, नो आइडिया। ठीक है। बेटा मदर का मैंने एक एग्जाम्पल दिया है, जरूरी नहीं है मदर के ऊपर हो, पर चलिए हम देखते हैं चैप्टर में कहानी में आज क्या है। सबसे खूबसूरत रस्किन बॉन्ड की कहानी है ये। मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं पता कि मुझे वही शहर इतना बेदिल क्यों लगा। शायद इसकी भीड़ भाड़, डरावने बंद माहौल, इसकी भीड़ भरी और गंदी गलियां और इसके थके थके से लोगों के कारण। एक दिन मैंने बाजार के बच्चों को एक विकृत शरीर वाले मंद बुद्धि लड़के को सताते हुए देखा। 8 से 14 वर्ष की आयु के लगभग 1 दर्जन लड़के उस मंदबुद्धि लड़के का मजाक उड़ा रहे थे, जो उनके गिरोह का सामना करने करके और उन्हें गालियां देकर अपने लिए हालात खराब कर रहा था। लड़के के चेहरे को देखकर लगता था कि वह 12 या 13 साल का होगा, लेकिन उसका कद 8 या 9 साल के बच्चे जैसा था। उसके पैर मोटे, छोटे और झुके हुए थे। उसकी छाती छोटी थी, लेकिन उसकी बाहें लंबी थी। उसका यह वानर जैसा व्यवहार करता हुआ लग रहा था। उसके माथे और गालों पर चेचक के दाग थे। वह सामान्य मानवों से बदसूरत था, और उसकी अस्पृष्ट बोली और उसके उत्पीड़कों को और जोश दे ला रही थी। उसकी पहुंच से दूर रहते हुए उन्होंने उस पर मिट्टी और पत्थर फेंके। असल में जोशीले बच्चों के गिरोह से ज्यादा क्रूर और कोई नहीं हो सकता। कई बार हमें कुछ बच्चे रास्ते में दिखते हैं या कोई स्ट्रे एनिमल्स दिखते हैं। कुछ लोग समझते हैं कि उनको सताने में, उनके ऊपर पत्थर फेंकने में या फिर उनको परेशान करने में बहुत ही ज्यादा वो मजे लेते हैं, इंजॉय करते हैं, बट एक्चुअली ये गलत है। ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए। अब यहाँ जिस बच्चे की बात हो रही है, वो दिखने में चाहे जैसा भी हो, पर वो एक इंसान है, उसके के अंदर भी दिल है, उसकी भी भावनाएं हैं, और किसी को भी परेशान करना एक्चुअली गलत है। मैं उस दृश्य को का एक असहज साक्षी था। मुझे लगा कि इसे रोकने के लिए मुझे कुछ करना चाहिए, लेकिन मेरे भीतर इसमें दखल देने का साहस नहीं था। जब एक पत्थर लड़के के गाल को छूते हुए उसके चेहरे पर लगा, तो मैं अपना आपा खो बैठा और चिल्लाते हुए उन लड़कों की ओर भागा। जिस तक मैं पहुंच सकता था। वे पराजित सैनिक दल की तरह बिखर गए। मैं अपने साहस पर हैरान था और जब लड़के वापस नहीं आए तो मुझे राहत मिली। मैंने भयभीत गुस्सैल लड़कों का हाथ पकड़ा और उससे पूछा कि वह कहाँ रहता है। वह मुझसे दूर हट गया, लेकिन मैंने उसकी मोटी और छोटी अंगुलियों को पकड़ लिया और उससे कहा कि मैं उसे उसके घर लेकर जाऊंगा। उसने बदबुदाते हुए असंगत बात कही और एक संकरी गली की ओर इशारा किया। मैं उसे बाजार से दूर ले गया। तो यहाँ पे एक छोटा सा ट्रस्ट बिल्ट हो गया था उस बच्चे इन दोनों के बीच में, और उस ट्रस्ट के कारण ही वो लड़का चाहता था कि जो राइटर है वो उसे उसके घर की ओर लेके जा सके। मैंने लड़कों से बहुत कम बात की क्योंकि यह स्पष्ट था कि वह ठीक से बोल नहीं पाता था। जब वह एक ऊंची दीवार से बने दरवाजे के बाहर रुका तो मुझे लगा कि हम उसके घर पहुंच गए हैं। दरवाजा एक महिला ने खोला था। लड़के ने तुरंत अपनी बाहें उसके गले में डाल दी और फूट फूट कर रोने लगा। मैं लड़के की मां का सामना करने के लिए तैयार न था। वह न केवल शारीरिक रूप से बिल्कुल सामान्य दिखती थी, बल्कि आश्चर्यजनक से रूप से सुंदर भी थी। वह लगभग 35 साल की रही होगी। उसने अपने बेटे के घर लाने के लिए मुझे धन्यवाद दिया और मुझे घर में आने के लिए कहा। लड़का बैठक के एक कोने में चला गया और सन्नाटे में उदास बैठ गया। उसके झुके हुए पैर इस मुद्रा में और भी भद्दे लग रहे थे। उसकी मां ने मुझे चाय की पेशकश की, लेकिन मैंने एक गिलास पानी मांगा। उसने लड़के से पानी लाने के लिए कहा और वह पानी ले आया। उसने मेरे चेहरे को देखे बिना मेरे हाथों में गिलास थमा दिया। सुरेश मेरा इकलौता बेटा है, उसने कहा। मेरे पति उससे निराश है, लेकिन मैं अपने बेटे से बहुत प्यार करती हूँ। क्या आपको लगता है कि वह बहुत बदसूरत है? सुंदरता की तरह बदसूरत भी महज एक शब्द है, मैंने कहा। ये दोनों शब्द अलग अलग लोगों के लिए अलग अलग मतलब रखते हैं। एक कवि ने कहा भी है, सुंदरता ही सत्य है, सत्य ही सुंदरता है। लेकिन अगर सुंदरता और सच्चाई एक ही चीज है, तो फिर वे अलग अलग शब्द क्यों हैं? जन्म और मृत्यु के अलावा कुछ भी शाश्वत नहीं है। लड़का उसके कदमों में बैठ गया। उसने उसकी गोदी में अपना सिर टिका दिया। वह अपनी साड़ी के पल्लू से उसका चेहरा पोंछने लगी। क्या तुमने उसे ठीक से बात करना सिखाने की कोशिश की है? मैंने पूछा। वह बचपन से ऐसा ही है, डॉक्टर, कुछ नहीं कर सकते। हम बात कर ही रहे थे कि लड़के के पिता अंदर आ गए और लड़का सड़क कर किचन में चला गया। उस आदमी ने लड़के को घर लाने के लिए मुझे धन्यवाद दिया और ऐसा लगा जैसे उसने अपने दिमाग से पूरी बात को तुरंत हटा दिया। वह व्यापारिक मामलों में व्यस्त लग रहा था। मुझे ये आभास हुआ कि उसने काफी पहले से एक विकृत बेटे का वजूद मंजूर कर लिया था और उसकी शुरुआत निराशा अब उदासीनता में बदल गई थी। अब मैं जाने के लिए उठा तो उसकी पत्नी मेरे साथ दरवाजे तक आई। अगर मेरे पति ने कुछ गलत बर्ताव किया है तो कृपया बुरा मत मानना, उसने कहा। उनका कारोबार बहुत अच्छा नहीं चल रहा है। यदि आप फिर से आना चाहते हैं तो कृपया जरूर आए। सुरेश ऐसे ज्यादा लोगों से नहीं मिलता जो उनके साथ एक सामान्य व्यक्ति की तरह व्यवहार करते हैं। यहाँ मैं कुछ देर रुक करके आप सबसे पूछना चाहूंगी कि जिस तरीके से व्यवहार इस बच्चे के साथ हो रहा था, जो कि थोड़ा विकृत था शरीर से भी, और हो सकता है कि उसका दिमाग भी उस तरीके से विकसित नहीं था, तो आप लोग को क्या लगता है कि उसके साथ जो भी दूसरे लोग कर रहे थे वो सही है? और अगर सही नहीं है तो कैसा व्यवहार होने चाहिए उसके साथ? क्या कोई बताना चाहेगा? नो मैम इज रॉन्ग, नो पोलाइट, ठीक है, पोलाइट व्यवहार होना चाहिए। अच्छा, तो किस तरीके से आपको लगता है कि नॉर्मल फील कराना चाहिए उसे? क्योंकि वो बोल भी नहीं पा रहा था, शरीर के हिसाब से भी वो थोड़ा विकृत था, दिमाग भी हो सकता है उतना ज्यादा उसका विकसित नहीं था। Yes, not everyone understands everyone's feeling. ओके, तो उनकी उसके स्ट्रेंथ को प्रेज करना चाहिए, तो हम कैसे पता लगा सकते हैं उस छोटे से बच्चे की स्ट्रेंथ के बारे में? वंडरफुल। सो आप लोग के आइडियाज, आप लोग की सोच बहुत ही अच्छी है, एंड मैं देख भी रही हूँ कि आप एम्पैथाइज है उस बच्चे के साथ। और आप लोग को कहीं ना कहीं बुरा भी लग रहा होगा कि इतना बेकार व्यवहार या इतना गंदा व्यवहार बच्चे के साथ नहीं करना चाहिए। एक पिता भी काफी मायूस थे अपने बच्चे के इस तरीके के रूप से, और उन्हें शायद समझ में नहीं आ रहा हो कि किस तरीके से व्यवहार करना चाहिए। तो यस, आगे देखते हैं क्या होता है चैप्टर में। मुझे पता था कि मैं उनसे फिर से मिलना चाहता था, लड़के के लिए दया से अधिक माँ के लिए, सहानुभूति के लिए। लेकिन मुझे एहसास हुआ कि ये व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझ में दिलचस्पी नहीं ले रही थी, सिवाय अपने बेटे के लिए एक संभावित संरक्षक के रूप में। तो यहाँ माँ नेचुरली किसी और इंसान में क्यों ही इंटरेस्टेड होगी, वो बहुत ज्यादा अपने बच्चे से प्यार करती थी, और चूंकि उसका बच्चा किसी को पसंद नहीं था, सब लोग उसके साथ भेदभाव करते थे, तो उन्होंने राइटर के लिए एक थोड़ा सा दिलचस्पी इस बात की थी कि शायद वो बच्चा इनसे बात करके थोड़ा सिक्योर महसूस करे, एंड सिक्योरिटी ही नहीं, वो शायद उसका फ्रेंड बन सके। तो कुछ एक माँ के पास एक पॉजिटिविटी भी शायद मिलकर के आ गई थी यहाँ पर। और वो चाह रही थी कि उसका बच्चा भी एक अच्छे और नेचुरल तरीके से आगे बढ़े, न कि परेशान होकर के। लगभग एक हफ्ते के बाद मैं फिर उनके घर गया। सुरेश के पापा कारोबार के सिलसिले में बाहर गए हुए थे, और मैं लंच के लिए रुक गया। लड़के की माँ ने मूली के स्वादिष्ट पराठे बनाए एवं अचार और दही के साथ परोसे। अगर सुरेश जानवर की तरह अपना खाना कड़प कर खा रहा था, तो मैं भी उसके पीछे नहीं था। उसकी माँ ने उसे ज्यादा खाने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया। खाना खाते समय वह उदास और बेपरवाह था, लेकिन जब मैंने सुझाव दिया कि वो मेरे साथ टहलने आए, तो उसने उत्सुकता से ऊपर देखा। इसके साथ ही उसकी माँ के चेहरे पर भय के भाव तैर गए। तो बच्चा तो बहुत ही उत्साहित था यहाँ पे, पर माँ थोड़ी डरी, और भय, फियर था उनके चेहरे पे, और वो बहुत ही परेशान थी। तो इसका रीजन क्या हो सकता है, जुगजीव सर आप बताना चाहेंगे?
हाँ मतलब उसको केयर चाहिए, तो ये वरीड होगी कि वो उसका केयर हो पाएगा कि नहीं हो पाएगा।
सर्टेनली। और कोई बताना चाहेगा? चलिए पढ़ते हैं। एक रीजन ये भी हो सकता है कि आगे बहुत ही व्यवहार गलत करते थे लोग, और केयर न मिलने के कारण वो बच्चा और ज्यादा परेशान हो रहा था, और काफी इंट्रोवर्ट हो गया था, और लोगों से मिलने में भी दिलचस्पी नहीं दिखाता था। क्या ये ठीक रहेगा, उसने पूछा। आपने देखा है कि दूसरे बच्चे उसके साथ कैसा व्यवहार करते हैं। उस दिन वह बिना किसी को बताए घर से निकल गया था। हम बाजार की तरफ नहीं जाएंगे, मैंने कहा। मैं खेतों में टहलने के बारे में सोच रहा था। सुरेश के जोश में आकर शोर मचाया, और ये दिखाने के लिए अपनी मुट्ठियों से मेज थपथपाई कि वह जाना चाहता है। आखिर उसकी मां ने सहमति दे दी। लड़का और मैं बाहर सड़क पर आ गए। अपने अजीब पैरों के कारण वो बहुत तेजी से नहीं चल सकता था, लेकिन इससे मुझे उसकी रुचि जगाने वाली किसी भी चीज की ओर ध्यान दिलाने का मौका मिला। एक बरगद के पेड़ पर झगड़ते तोते, एक मैले तालाब में लोट लगाती भैंस, सड़क पर गाते हुए जाते किन्नर। सुरेश ने किन्नरों में गहरी दिलचस्पी ली, शायद इसलिए कि वे अपने तरीके से विचित्र थे। लंबे, पर्दाना दिखने वाले वे लोग महिलाओं की तरह कपड़े पहने हुए थे। उनकी भारी पैरों के टखनों पर घंटियां बज रही थी, और उनके लंबे दुबले पतले चेहरे लाली और काजल से पुते हुए थे। मैंने पहली बार सुरेश को हंसते हुए सुना। जाहिर तौर पर उसे पता चल गया था कि उससे भी अजीब इंसान थे, और किसी भी इंसान की तरह उसने भी उनका मजाक उड़ाने में समय नहीं गवाया। हंसो मत, मैंने कहा। वे इसी तरह पैदा हुए थे जैसे कि तुम हो, वैसे ही पैदा हुए थे। लेकिन उसने मुझे गंभीरता से नहीं लिया और मुस्कुराया। उसके चौड़े मुंह से आश्चर्यजनक रूप से मजबूत दांत झांक रहे थे। हम कस्बे के बाहर इलाके में सूखी नदी पर पहुंचे और उसे पार करते हुए सरसों के फूल पीले फूलों के एक खेत में पहुंचे। सरसों वन के किनारे की ओर फैली हुई थी। दूर पेड़ों को देखकर सुरेश चिल्लाते और ताली बजाते हुए उसकी ओर दौड़ा। वह पहले कभी शहर से बाहर नहीं गया था। उसने दुनिया में केवल अपने घर का आंगन और कभी कभी बाजार की ओर जाने वाली सड़क ही देखी थी, इसलिए उसे पेड़ों ने बहुत आकर्षित किया। तो हम जब रोजमर्रा की चीजों से कुछ अलग देखते हैं तो वो हमें अपने तरफ अट्रैक्ट करती है, और इस तरीके से हम बहुत ज्यादा खुश भी होते हैं। हमारे जंगल में एक छोटी सी जलधारा देखी तो मैंने अपने कपड़े उतारे और सुरेश को अपने साथ आने के लिए आमंत्रित करते हुए ठंडे पानी में छलांग लगा दी। वह अपने कपड़े उतारने में झिझक रहा था, लेकिन कुछ देर पहले देखने के बाद मेरे साथ जुड़ने की उत्सुकता ने उसकी आत्मचेतना पर काबू पा लिया और उसने वसंत की कोमल धूप में अपने विकृत छोटे शरीर से कपड़े उतार दिए। वह अनाड़ीपन से मेरी ओर बढ़ा। मेरे घुटने तक आ रहा पानी उसकी छाती तक पहुंच गया। आओ, मैं तुम्हें तैरना सिखाऊंगा, मैंने कहा, और मैंने उसे कमर से पकड़कर ऊपर उठाए रखा। उसकी छप छप की और छटपटाया, लेकिन जब उसने पाया कि वह बचा रह सकता है, वो संघर्ष करना बंद कर दिया। बाद में धारा के किनारे पर बैठे उसने एक छोटे से कछुए को जमीन के एक छेद के ऊपर बैठा देखा, जिसमें उसने अंडे दिए थे। उसने पहले कभी किसी कछुए को नहीं देखा था। जब कछुआ अपना सिर अपने खोल में घुसाता और फिर बहुत सावधानी से उसे बाहर निकालता, तब वह सम्मोहित होकर उसे देखता। उसने महसूस किया होगा कि कछुआ कुछ मायने में उससे मिलता जुलता है। उन दोनों की मुड़ी हुई टांगे, गोल पीठ और दुनिया से अपना सिर छुपाने की प्रवृत्ति एक जैसी ही है। उसके बाद मैं हर हफ्ते लगभग 2 बार उस लड़की के घर जाता और हम लगभग हमेशा धारा देखने जाते थे। जल्द ही सुरेश थोड़ी दूर तैरने लायक हो गया। बाजार के लड़कों को तैरना नहीं आता था। इसने उसे एक निश्चित आत्मविश्वास दिया और उसके जीवन को एक आयामी अस्तित्व से कुछ बेहतर बना दिया। जितना अधिक मैंने सुरेश को देखा, मैंने उसकी विकृतियों के प्रति उतना ही कम जागरूक था। मेरे लिए वो तेजी से आदर्श बनता जा रहा था, जबकि बाजार के लड़के एक दूसरे से बहुत ही समानता के कारण असामान्य लग रहे थे। वह अब भी उसकी कुरूपता के बारे में सचेत था, और वह भला सचेत क्यों नहीं रहता। यह मुझे हमारी पहली मुलाकात के लगभग 2 महीने बाद स्पष्ट हुआ था। हम सरसों के खेतों से होते हुए घर आ रहे थे, जो पीले से हरे हो गए थे। तभी मैंने देखा एक छोटी सी बकरी हमारा पीछा कर रही थी। ऐसा लगता था कि वो अपनी माँ से बिछुड़ गई है और जब और अब हम से जुड़ाव महसूस कर रही थी। हालांकि मैंने उसे दूर भगाने की कोशिश करी, लेकिन वह हमारे पीछे लगी रही, और जब सुरेश ने पाया कि वह हमारे साथ ही आना चाहती है, तो वो उसे उठाकर घर ले गया। अगले कुछ दिनों में बकरी उसकी खास जुनून बन गई। हमने उसे अपने हाथों से खिलाया और उसे अपने पलंग के पास सोने दिया। वह बकरी का सुंदर छोटा बच्चा था। उसके सींग परी जैसे थे और घर में चारों ओर उछल कूद मचाना उसकी दिलकश आदत थी। सभी ने इस पालतू जानवर की तारीफ करी। लड़की की माँ और मैंने दोनों ने टिप्पणी की कि यह कितना सुंदर है। जानवर के प्रति तब उसकी नाराजगी नजर आने लगी जब दूसरे उसकी तारीफ करने लगे। उसे संदेह था कि उन्हें यह बच्चा इसके मालिक से भी अच्छा लग रहा था। मुझे याद है कि मैंने उसे एक निचले शीशे के सामने उकड़ू बैठकर बच्चे को अपनी बाहों में लिए हुए और शीशे में उन दोनों के अक्स पर गौर करते हुए पाया था। इससे कुछ देर बाद सुरेश ने बकरी को दूर भगा दिया। जब उसने देखा कि मैं उसे देख रहा हूं, तो वो उठा और मुझे देखे बिना कमरे से बाहर चला गया। यहाँ इस बच्चे की जेलिसी के बारे में भी थोड़ा सा जिक्र है, और जेलिसी के बाद कंपैरिजन भी है। क्या आप लोग को लगता है कि जेलस होके या कंपैरिजन जब कोई हमारा करता है किसी से, या हमें लगता है कि हमारा कंपैरिजन हो रहा है, जो कि कई बार होता भी है, कई बार नहीं भी होता है, तो इस पर्टिकुलर टाइम में क्या करना चाहिए आप लोग को? आप क्या कर सकते हैं जब आपको ऐसा फीलिंग होती है कि आपको जेलिसी की तरफ ध्यान देना चाहिए, कंपैरिजन की तरफ ध्यान देना चाहिए, या आगे बढ़ना चाहिए? इट्स हार्ड बट इट वी शुड एक्सेप्ट आवरसेल्फ, यस, एक्सेप्टेंस होनी चाहिए। शुड नॉट फील जेलस, बट बेटा जेलसी तो एक फीलिंग है, वो कभी ना कभी आ ही जाती है। और जब लोग हम हमारा किसी और से कंपैरिजन करते तो हमें बुरा भी बहुत लगता है। तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में क्या होना चाहिए? लुक फॉरवर्ड, दैट्स वंडरफुल। एनीवन एल्स? वाओ, we have control, we should control self awareness and self acceptance. Very good. So awareness, yes, awareness about ourselves and awareness about the world around us is also very much important. सेल्फ अवेयरनेस, सोशल अवेयरनेस एंड सेल्फ मोटिवेशन, ये दो तीन चीजें तो जरूर ही होनी चाहिए। एंड थोड़ा हमें टाइम लगता है इन सब चीजों के लिए, बट जब हम एक बार समझ लेते हैं तो हमको अपने आप को मोटिवेट करना और अपने विजन और अपने फ्यूचर की तरफ आगे जाने में बहुत ही ज्यादा सहायता भी मिल जाती है, क्योंकि हमें पता है अपनी स्ट्रेंथ, अपनी वीकनेसेस और किस तरीके से हमें आगे बढ़ना है। तो सेल्फ अवेयरनेस के कारण ही हम आगे बढ़ने में हमें बहुत ज्यादा मेहनत तो हम करते ही हैं, लेकिन मदद भी बहुत ज्यादा मिलती है। 2 दिन बाद जब मैं उसके घर पर गया तो उसकी माँ बहुत परेशान लगी। मैं समझ सकता था कि वह रो रही थी, लेकिन वह मुझे देखकर राहत महसूस कर रही थी। वह मुझे बैठक में ले गई। जब सुरेश ने मुझे देखा तो वो फर्श से उठा और बरामदे में भाग गया। क्या गड़बड़ है, मैंने पूछा। उस छोटे बकरी को सुरेश ने मार डाला, उसने कहा। उसने मुझे बताया कि कैसे सुरेश ने अचानक और बेकाबू गुस्से में उस बच्चे पर एक ईंट फेंकी, जिससे उसकी खोपड़ी टूट गई। उसके लिए एक जानवर की मौत से ज्यादा परेशान करने वाली बात यह थी कि सुरेश को अपने किए पर कोई पछतावा नहीं था। अब ये छोटा बच्चा इतना ज्यादा जेलस हो गया था क्योंकि सभी उसको परेशान करते थे, एंड जिस तरीके से सब उसे परेशान करते थे ईंट फेंक के, ये गंदी बातें बोल के, उसने वही तरीका अपनाया और अपने आप को कंट्रोल किए बिना उसने उस छोटे से जो बकरी का बच्चा था उसे मार दिया। अब माँ परेशान इस बात से नहीं थी कि वो गुस्सा हो गया या उसने कुछ गलत काम करी, वो इस तरीके से परेशान हो रही थी कि उसे समझ ही नहीं आया कि उसकी गलती कहाँ है। तो गलती करके अगर आप पछतावा करते हैं और आगे बढ़ते हैं तो वो बहुत ही अच्छी बात है। अगर आपको समझ में ही नहीं आता आपकी गलती क्या है और आप समझते कि आपने सही किया, तो ये थोड़ी गलत बात हो जाती है। मैं उससे बात करूंगा, मैंने कहा और बरामदे में चला गया, लेकिन लड़का वहां से गायब हो गया था। वो बाजार गया होगा, उसकी माँ ने चिंतित होकर कहा। वह ऐसा तब करता है जब वह परेशान होता है। कभी कभी मुझे लगता है कि उसे छेड़े जाना और पीटे जाना अच्छा लगता है। वह बाजार में नहीं था, मैंने उसे धारा के पास पाया। वह नरम कीचड़ में अपने पेट के बल लेटा हुआ छड़ी से टैडपोलो का पीछा कर रहा था। तुमने बकरी को क्यों मारा, मैंने पूछा। उसने अपने कंधे उचका दिए। क्या तुम्हें उसे मारने में मजा आया? उसने मुझे देखकर मुस्कुराते हुए जोर से सिर हिलाया। कितने क्रूर हो तुम, मैंने कहा, लेकिन मेरा यह मतलब नहीं था। मुझे पता था कि उसकी क्रूरता मेरी या किसी और की क्रूरता से अलग नहीं थी। केवल उसकी क्रूरता बेरोक थी, आदिम क्रूरता जो अभी तक सभ्य संयम से अछूती नहीं थी। उसने अपने कमीज की जेब से एक कलम चाकू निकाला और उसे खोलकर मेरे हाथों में दे दिया। उसने अपने नंगे पेट की ओर इशारा किया और मुझे ब्लेड को उसके पेट में घुसेड़ने का इशारा किया। उसके चेहरे पर ऐसा शोकाकुल भाव था, बकरी की बलि के लिए मुझे नाराज करने और पछतावा न करने का परिणाम, कि मुझे हंसी के ठहाके लगाने पड़े। तुम तो बहुत मजाकिया हो, मैंने उसके चाकू लेकर धारा में फेंकते हुए कहा। आओ तैरते हैं। हम पूरी दोपहर तैरते रहे और सुरेश मुस्कुराते हुए घर चला गया। उसकी माँ और मैंने इस पूरे मामले को उसके पिता से गुप्त रखने की साजिश रची थी। और मैंने भी घर में बकरी की मौजूदगी से वाकिफ नहीं थे। अगले हफ्तों के दौरान सुरेश काफी संतुष्ट दिखाई दिया और मुझे एक पत्र मिला जिसमें मुझे दिल्ली में नौकरी की पेशकश की गई थी और मुझे पता था कि मुझे इसे मंजूर करना होगा क्योंकि मैं उस समय अपनी लेखन से बहुत कम कमा पा रहा था। मैंने उससे कहा कि मैं जा रहा हूँ, तो लड़के की माँ निराश हो गई, यहाँ तक कि उदास भी। मुझे लगता है कि वो मुझे काफी पसंद करने लगी थी, लेकिन लड़का हमेशा अप्रत्याशित व्यवहार करता था। वह बिल्कुल भी यह महसूस नहीं करता था। मैं उसकी स्पष्ट उदासीनता से थोड़ा आहत हुआ। क्या हमारे हफ्ते का साचार्य का उसके लिए कोई मतलब नहीं था? मैंने अपने आप से कहा कि उसे शायद इस बात का एहसास नहीं था कि वो मुझे फिर कभी नहीं देख पाएगा। शाम को मेरी ट्रेन छूटने वाली थी। मैं अलविदा करने उसके घर चला गया। लड़के की मां ने उन्हें पत्र लिखने का वादा किया, लेकिन सुरेश ठंडा और दूर लग रहा था। मैंने उससे मेरे पास बैठने या मेरे हाथ थामने से इनकार कर दिया। उसने मुझे एहसास कराया कि मैं फिर से एक बाहरी व्यक्ति हूँ, अजीब और डरावने वाले लोगों पर पत्थर फेंकने वाली भीड़ में से एक। उस शाम 8 बजे मैं तीसरे दर्जे के डिब्बे में दाखिल हुआ और कई अन्य यात्रियों के साथ कुछ देर हाथापाई के बाद एक खिड़की के पास सीट हासिल करने में सफल रहा। इससे मैं प्लेटफॉर्म देख सकता था। गाड़ी ने सीटी बजाई और ट्रेन छूटने ही वाली थी। तभी मैंने देखा कि सुरेश स्टेशन के टर्न स्टाइल के पास खड़ा होकर प्लेटफॉर्म पर इधर उधर देख रहा है। सुरेश, मैंने चिल्लाया। मेरी आवाज सुनकर वो लड़खड़ाता हुआ प्लेटफॉर्म पर आया। वह शाम के व्यस्तम समय में बाजार के बीच से दौड़ता आया था। मैं अगले साल वापस आऊंगा, मैंने कहा। ट्रेन स्टेशन से बाहर निकलने लगी थी और जैसे ही मैंने सुरेश की ओर हाथ हिलाया, वह लड़खड़ाता हुआ उन्मत्त संयमित इशारों से अपनी बाहें लहराते हुए भागा। मैंने उसे किसी के बिस्तर बंद से ठोकर खाकर जमीन पर गिरते हुए देखा। इंजन ने गति पकड़ी और प्लेटफॉर्म पीछे छूट गया। आखिरी बार मैंने सुरेश को देखा, भीड़ भरे प्लेटफॉर्म पर अकेला पड़ा हुआ, दुनिया के बड़े धूसर अंधेरे में अकेला, टेढ़ा, झुका और मुड़ा हुआ, दुनिया का सबसे खूबसूरत लड़का। कैसी लगी कहानी आपको? ये एक दुनिया का एक धरातल है। ये सबसे बड़ा सच है कि हम सब अलग दिखते हैं, हम यूनिक है, हमारी अपनी अपनी स्ट्रेंथ है, वीकनेसेस है, चैलेंजेस है। दुनिया दिखने में बहुत ही अच्छी दिखती है, बट कई बार हमें लगता है कि हमारे साथ ही गलत हो रहा है, जबकि अगर आप दुनिया की भीड़ में जाओ तो आपको लगेगा कि आपसे भी ज्यादा बदनसीब बहुत से लोग हैं। तो जब आप कभी अपसेट हो, कभी परेशान हो, तो उन लोगों के बारे में सोचो। तब आपको लगेगा कि आप लोग सब कितने ब्लेस्ड हैं। तो yes, it is. Story was very interesting, very nice, and it has shown something very different. हमें पता है लोग ऐसे हैं दुनिया में, बट जब तक हम अपने सामने नहीं देखते या उन जेन्युइनली हमें समझ में नहीं आता कि उनकी क्या चैलेंजेस है, वो किस लिए अपसेट है, क्यों परेशान हो रहे हैं, हम रिलेट नहीं कर पाते। क्योंकि एक सामने से देखना और एक उनके बारे में सुनना और समझना दोनों बहुत ही अलग चीजें हैं। सो जैसे कि मैं हर बारी कहती हूँ, हमारा आज का सेशन यहाँ खत्म हुआ। आप लोग का बहुत 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 धन्यवाद आने के लिए। रिफ्लेक्शंस लिखते जाइए, बढ़ाते जाइए, और आपके प्यारे प्यारे रिफ्लेक्शंस को पढ़ के हम लोग सब बहुत ही खुश होते हैं और हम आपके साथ शेयर भी करते हैं। तो आज के सेशन में चूंकि आप सबने कहा कि 3 बुक रीडिंग इज गुड, तो इसी के साथ हम अगले हफ्ते भी 3 बुक रीडिंग में आएंगे। कोई कुछ पूछना चाहेगा या कुछ आपको बताना है, कुछ फीडबैक देनी है, सो दिस इज द टाइम। अगर आप अनम्यूटेड हैं, फीडबैक देना चाहें तो यू आर मोस्ट वेलकम, एल्स यू कैन रेज योर हैंड एंड आई विल अनम्यूट यू। नो मैम। नो फीडबैक, नथिंग। ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम। ओके, यू आर लर्न द रियल मीनिंग ऑफ खूबसूरत, वेरी गुड। सो दिल से अच्छा होना चाहिए, दिल से सुंदर होना चाहिए। शरीर तो चलिए, आज जो है, अगली साल, 5 साल, 10 साल बाद सबके चेंजेस आते ही हैं। तो दिल की खूबसूरती देखिए और एक दूसरे को हेल्प करिए, दैट इज द रियल ब्यूटी। With this, I end today's session. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Take care.
थैंक यू मैम।